so today's speaker is someone that's really familiar to me because I end up going to a lot of her events. And so today's speaker is Deb Kramer, and she's the executive director of Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful. She founded the organization in 2015. As a community organizer, she has drawn thousands of people to Coyote Creek, me included, for cleanup events, work closely with many community organizations and agencies such as Audubon, Open Space Authority, City of San Jose, and Save Our Trails. She has been a project manager in environmentally related fields, from water, energy, and waste to now watersheds for most of her career. Deb is a former board member of Save the Bay and an alumnus of Cal Berkeley with a degree in environmental science. Her favorite pastimes are hiking, backpacking, and gardening. So please join me in welcoming Deb. Take it over, Deb.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I really am grateful to have the opportunity to share the work that we do around Coyote Creek, especially with regards to building community. So this time I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation and we'll get started. All right, so I thought I'd just tell you a little bit more about me than what Karan already said. I actually grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in the East Bay and grew up during the time of the environmental movements in the 70s. So recycling was just getting started. There also were a lot of droughts and fires. So oil was a problem. So we had odd and even day of getting gasoline. So all of that definitely played into myself as a person growing up with the environment in mind. So I realized that resources were scarce, and it raised my awareness around what I can do around it. So my academic pursuits, as Karan said, was in the environment. And I just really loved what I was learning and wanted to practice it. So my professional career has mostly been in the environmental realm, except for a couple of stints in technology. I worked at Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and I also worked at Oracle. And I especially enjoy going hiking and backpacking, and went backpacking in the Sierras for the first time in 2 years, just a couple of weeks ago. And it was really great. So I just feel like for me, being in nature, it just plays a significant role, not only in who I am, but also my health, as well as thinking about having a healthy environment. So moving on to Coyote Creek, this is a general map that a member of the Sierra Club actually drew for us. It's where the creek starts up at Henrico Park, and it makes kind of a backwards J through Coyote Lake and Anderson Lake, and then goes through Osier Ponds, which if you haven't visited is quite an interesting spot, along downtown San Jose and out through Milpitas, right past the Coyote Creek field station. So it's 64 miles long, and it has over 20 miles of trails. And I noticed from the chat that a number of you have been on the trails, which is great. And I hope that you continue to enjoy them. And the other thing about the creek is that it's got very distinct sections to it. So up at Henrico and out in the valley, you have more of a savanna type of environment. And then you've got the urban environment where there are definitely a lot of trees in the riparian corridor, and then the tidal marshes. So it's a very diverse environment. So just a little bit about our organization is the vision for Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful is for a healthy Coyote Creek with clean water, abundant wildlife, and people enjoying nature. And our mission is to really get people mobilized through community resources and participation to achieve that healthy creek, and hence the presentation. I just want to give you a little bit about a background about what it is that we do. So we have kind of three main principles around how we get people connected and involved. And one of the principles is around education. So if people learn about the watershed and see what's so special about the urban landscape, then they'll want to take action or participate in recreational activities. And I'll go into some of those educational activities in a moment. We also offer recreational things where we want to have people come out and have fun and get some fresh air and maybe meet some new people. And then lastly, as a creek, it doesn't have a voice. So we as humans need to provide a voice for the creek through our advocacy, but we also pick up a lot of trash, and we ask people to share their experiences through blogs. So getting back to nature is I like to think about what is it that we get out of it, which leads us into why I got involved in helping Coyote Creek. So what we get out of it is having a healthy body and healthy environment and people. Nature also provides ecosystem services. So those are ways to help prevent flood or to provide some oxygen in the air through our trees. And it also helps to mitigate climate change or global warming. And an article I just read in the New York Times talked about how we spend too much energy in silos of thinking about global warming or climate change. And then there's also biodiversity or the genetic wildlife pool, but really they need to be interspersed as we think about them. So I thought that was a really neat article that was written, and I encourage you to read it. It was dated June 10th, titled "Our Response to Climate Change is Missing Something Big, Scientists Say." And then finally, when we look at nature, we want to make sure that we have a diversified genetic pool. So these are just some of the photographs that I have collected over time and that people have shared with me of some of the different species that are visible in the creek and its environs. And we get them through both going out and enjoying the area as well as by doing our Bioblitzes, which are super fun. So looking at education, you can see Karan here with some of our other Creek ambassadors, Bruce and Ali Victorine. And this was at one of our events that was, we haven't had in 2 years, our Kelly Park Sunset Walks. But we also provide school curriculum and collaborate with universities and take advantage of the virtual environment like most of us are doing now. So a little bit about the K12 watershed curriculum, which we just have started working on. It originally was supposed to be an in-person curriculum, but it had to quickly adapt online like most people. And in the upper right, you can see Coulter Cook, who is our interpretive coordinator, and he really is terrific at engaging with younger folks around nature. And some of the things that we've done include getting a group of, this was really fun, as we got a group of kids to go out after they had a presentation on pollution and how they can be part of the solution. So we got them outside to go pick up trash around their school. And then, as I mentioned, we work with universities, and we just started doing virtual watershed tours. And I saw that Craig is on, and he participated in one. And we also had Katie from the SFBBO participate, and those are on our YouTube channel if you want to check them out. So another thing that we do is we host Bioblitz events, and they're timed events. So ours are 2 hours, just so people don't get too bored looking at things but we do have docents, and that's, I think, what makes us special. What the activities that we do are special is that we actually have docents that we partner with to host these events. But we have 24 hours to make observations at a locale and have curators who review and identify observations. So for those of you who maybe have participated in a Bioblitz or have just been outside, I'm launching a poll here. So what group of wildlife is your favorite? If you could just take a moment and click on it. I'm sure birds is going to be very high on this list.
We may have a slightly biased audience.
Yes, yes, I figured. And we have a winner, birds. But a lot of people do care about plants and bugs, as well as some mammals and aquatic species. And you know what? Those are all things that we do and take a look at when we're out exploring in our Bioblitzes. So here are some of the fun photos of from the Bioblitzes. We have people who specialize in insects. Karan would be one of those. So if you ever go out with him, he'll bring his microscope and you can look at ants. We also have people who really enjoy plants a lot, and butterflies and all sorts of other creatures. So it's a great way to get kids out. I'm just amazed all the time at what these kids find and how excited they get, and they want to come back and see more. So just like you all do at SFBBO, the more that we can get kids engaged in the environment early, the more that they'll want to take care of nature. So far, we've had 32 events at 13 parks with over 1,200 people who've participated over the past 3.5 years. And that's thanks to the Bioblitz Club with Marav von Schack to help put the events together. We've explored Kelly Park, Coyote Meadows, Alum Rock Park is coming up next in a month, and we were just at the Coyote Creek Visitor Center. So a lot of great things to explore. And since one of the themes is how do we do this together is through community. So Bioblitz Club, Santa Clara County has definitely been a big partner in allowing us to be out on the land without having to pay for the permit fees, as well as the city of San Jose. And the open space authorities provide us with grants, and that's also been a big help. So one of the things that I wanted to pose here is one of the tools that we use when we go out there. And can anybody identify this butterfly? You can put it in the chat. So it is a checker spot, and when I put it in iNaturalist, it came up as a variable checker spot butterfly, which was pretty cool. So when we are out at our BioBlitzes, we ask people to download iNaturalist, which is an app, and many of you have probably participated or used iNaturalist in identifying things, but it's just a super easy and great tool to use. So I was out in another park and I wanted to find out, the difference between the false turkey tail fungus and the turkey tail fungus, which I really enjoy exploring fungus around here, especially since I live on the peninsula in San Carlos. I think Janice said she was in San Carlos as well. And I wanted to know what the difference was between them, as well as where kind of the spread is of them. So I put it into iNaturalist, my observations, and it came back as one was false turkey tail, one was the regular turkey tail. Can anyone tell me which one is the false turkey tail, if you know it, just from looking at them? So yes, the one on the left is the false turkey tail. And again, iNaturalist was how I was able to determine the two. And as I continue to go out in nature and look at them, the fungus, I get more familiar with it. So this was another example of some fungus that I found. And again, yes. And then again, I was like, gosh, I've never seen this before in Pulgus Ridge Park. So I took a few pictures and I posted on iNaturalist. And I've been on this trail for like 20 years and had never seen this thing before. So little did I know that there's a guy out there named Alan Rockefeller, and he identified it for me. And when I looked his profile up, he studies in the Santa Cruz Mountains a lot of different kind of fungus. So does anyone have an idea of what, so when I put this in iNaturalist, it came back as two possible fungus. One was lion's mane and the other one was coral tooth. So can you guess which one this ended up being, thanks to Alan helping me to identify it? So it actually ended up being the lion's mane. And I thought it was the coral tooth because of looking up close, like you did, Gina. That was my guess, but nope, it ended up being that. So this is an amazing tool. We try to get people really excited about using it, even in their own backyards. We had a Meet Your Nature Neighbors project a year ago for April during Earth Month, just again to try to get people out during the pandemic. So hope you guys can also get involved with the iNaturalist program and come out to one of our BioBlitzes as well. So we have Bruce and Allie again, who love to help us with our creek cleanups and Coulter. And I have this picture here because part of it is getting people connected, and our K12 specific curriculum, we're focusing on schools that are along Coyote Creek. So we've partnered with San Jose State University and Communiversity to create courses and then create relationships with the faculty and provide courses to the classes along Coyote Creek. And as I mentioned earlier, we have this watershed in a box curriculum, and it was originally meant to have all the tools that a teacher needed to use the curriculum. But of course, we had to modify it for the pandemic. And again, you can see that we had the kids not only take the pollution solution course that Coulter offered, but then they went out and picked up trash. And the teacher said, oh, why don't we decorate, since these were third graders, why don't we decorate our litter sticks and our vests? Because they were receiving their litter kits from Anti-Litter in the city of San Jose. So it was really fun to watch them decorate, to then show us what they had created, and then also talk about the trash that they found. So it got them really into wanting to be good stewards. So I thought that, again, this is a way that we partner with the schools, the university, as well as Com University to create a fun environment for students to learn. Moving into action, we do creek cleanups and reduce pollution, and we do advocacy for healthy water, land use, and community benefits from nature, such as protecting Coyote Valley. And we also love getting people outside while they're doing some good. So one of our projects is the Coyote Meadows project. And has anybody heard of this one or know where Coyote Meadows is? So Eric says yes. Eric, you want to unmute yourself and maybe share with people a little bit of what you know about the Coyote Meadows project?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. So it's basically under 680 or 280. It's
280.
The interstate change there. As far as the project, I know that they're planning to put in some more trails. That there's a trail there now, but they're planning to make it more accessible. So
great, thanks. I'm glad that you're aware of it. So Coyote Meadows is a landmass located in the area between Story Road and Highway 280, and it's bounded on the west side by Coyote Creek and a landfill leading into the Walmart that's off of Story Road. And there's 50 acres of land here, and a group of about 25 of us have been really keen on trying to create an urban open space park. And we were granted an OSA grant to work together and come up with a kind of a community concept plan of what we wanted to see happen. And again, this is not a built environment. It would be more of an open environment for people to participate in passive activities. And as far as the trails go, so Eric mentioned the Coyote Creek Trail. From Selma Linder Park, the trail is under construction right now to be completed, I think they said in October, and it'll go from under 280 along the edge of the creek and come out right here at the Remillard Court Road, which you cross over to the parking lot for Happy Hollow. So that'll be a nice little segment that has a social justice component to it, and that people right now who live in the neighborhoods north of 280 have to go around either on McLaughlin Boulevard or around on 10th in order to get to the Story Road side. So this will be a very nice accessible way for people to get about. Another activity that we've been involved with is the Protect Coyote Valley campaign, and that's a coalition of about 12 organizations, and we've worked together on things such as Measure T, where there was a flood protection as well as public safety, but there was money involved to purchase land for protecting Coyote Valley. And then other activities, we partner with the Santa Clara County Parks to do some trail recreation or restoration activities and weed abatement. And then also we've been out with SFBBO doing some weed management out at the bay. So lots of fun things that we do, and we love to take action. So, but one of the things we're best known for are bringing people together to clean up Coyote Creek. So this one in particular has the Trash Punks, which is an organization of volunteers who not only partner with us around cleaning up the creeks, but also trash around the city of San Jose. And we have hosted, I can't even remember what the number is right now, it's somewhere over 150 cleanups and removed 600 tons of trash. So there's just a lot that we've done to bring community together, from high school kids and scouts and businesses, universities, and just people who are interested in volunteering. It's been really fun. And some of our volunteers, they say that, you know, by coming down here, they had no idea, first of all, that there was really a creek down here, because most of it's below grade. And the other thing too is that it's so hidden that you wouldn't know that it was polluted. And 2 weeks ago, we had a cleanup where nearly 10 tons of trash was removed by 41 people. So mighty group. So before we move on to the next one, I wanted to do one more kind of fun poll, which is about the bane of my existence in the creek, is how long does it take for styrofoam to completely disintegrate? So some statistics say 500 years, but because it is a plastic material, it actually just keeps breaking down while it's releasing its toxins. So it really doesn't ever break down. It's one of those things that after the flood in 2017, we had one section in Kelly Park that had literally millions of little itty bitty pieces of styrofoam, and it was no fun picking it up. The people who were there said, okay, I'm done, next. So recreation is another thing that we do. So we have a lot of different activities that we conduct along the creek. So obviously getting outside improves your health. It connects people with nature in an active sort of way. And we do stop along the way when we do our recreation activities and have a little bit of education. And we offer people a way to see the creek in different ways. So we've done bike rides, and along the way had, for example, out at the bay, we had people stop and at bird locations and hear from SFBBO or from the San Francisco Wildlife Society about nature out at Don Edwards. We've also held kayak events. So if you haven't been on a kayak event, you really see the watershed from a different perspective. And then up high, backpacking at Henry Coe was a fabulous experience. Really enjoyed doing that. And we're going to start leading some hikes in the open space areas as well, so people can connect more with nature. In the lower right here, this is at Cottonwood Lake. And how many of you know that there are Thule elk that are over on the Diablo Range? It's pretty cool. I had no idea until I went on one of our nature hikes. So here are the statistics for the creek and trail cleanups that we've done. So again, taking action, 132 events with over nearly 8,000 volunteers and 260 tons of trash. So higher than I had off the top of my head. And we've been averaging about 2 cleanups a month. And even during the pandemic, we've had roughly 40 volunteers for our 3-hour events. Before the pandemic, we'd have somewhere between 70 and 100 people come out. So we're hoping that we can get people back out and helping the creek with our cleanups once again. So I just want to leave you with this message of hope, that I have hope that we can return all of our South Bay creeks, even Coyote Creek, back to a vibrant, healthy creek with clean water and abundance of fish and natural park spaces that people can enjoy. And I have a quote from the Sufi poet Rumi called "Keep Walking," or from "Keep Walking." It's called, "Let the beauty we love be what we do." And I just really feel like if we give up on nature, then we're doing it a disservice, not for us as well as for it. And so it's up to us as humans to really get out there and try to take care of nature. So with that, you can join us for some of our other activities that are coming up. They're all listed on our website. And I really encourage you to come out to the Bioblitzes. People really, really enjoy those. And we've done a couple of virtual ones as well. So if you can't get out to some of the areas that are a little more difficult to get to, the virtual Bioblitzes are a great way to see nature. And here's my contact information in case you want to get a hold of me, and also join our social media so you can see some of our events and pictures and things that we do. So at that, I will stop sharing and see your lovely faces and take some questions.
Thank you so much, Deb. Thank you also not just for the presentation, but for, of course, all the amazing work that you do with Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that. I have a question about, I haven't lived here in the Bay Area for all that long. So I'm kind of curious about the history of how you started Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful and how it has grown over the years.
Well, I started as a contractor 7 years ago and decided that I wanted to do more than just help people pick up trash, but to actually do the other components, which is the advocacy and getting people to help them learn about the beauty of the creek and what's out there, as well as do fun things like backpacking and kayaking. So I then started Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful 6 years ago and was able to then expand and do my own fundraising to get to just do more. And it allowed me as well to build the partnerships that I have with the other organizations, including SFBBO. So that's nice. I see Gina, what is the source of all that junk? Is it people dumping or homeless? So that's a really good question, because when I first started working on the creek and doing the cleanups, we found that roughly 70% or so was legacy trash. So it had been buried, dumped, thrown in the creek since the 70s. And so we were just finding 8-track tape cassette players. We found old furniture that was definitely very 70s looking. So when the drought was the drought before was going on about 5 years ago, we were able to get a lot of that out. Now it's more like 80% of it is from homeless people and about 20% from illegal dumping. And homeless people do generate a lot of trash. They collect a lot of trash and just stuff from around the community. And when people illegally dump trash, they will go, rescue a mattress to sleep on. So I think that it's multiple sources, but right now we've seen a big shift from legacy trash that had been there for a long time to now a lot of homeless trash. And then Jan, I see in the last 10 years or so, what would you say has been the most positive trends around the watershed? On the positive side, I think awareness. Sadly, the flood in 2017 raised the awareness of Coyote Creek in people's minds. They all of a sudden knew the name Coyote Creek and more about where it was located, because it's very close to downtown San Jose. But also through that, they were able to see that there's a lot of value in the creek, and that because of the floodplains, people realize that it is a place that we need to help to preserve. And having the valley, Coyote Valley, be preserved and as open space will help with flood control. I think also that people are seeing that the species that are out there need our help. So studies that the Open Space Authority or Post are conducting have been very helpful towards that. And with regards to what's been most negative, I think it's the growing awareness of the homeless population and the impact on the watershed. So for example, fires have been a really big problem in the past 12 months, especially with the pandemic. and they're labeled as cooking fires by the rangers. A lot of them are just pure arson, especially when an abatement might occur. And it really does destroy a lot of the habitat, even if it's a small fire. So I think that's been one of the most negative trends that we've seen, is destruction of the habitat, especially by homeless people living along the waterways, and destroying the banks and reducing the habitat that's available for wildlife. Janice asks, are there any trails for the handicapped? So the majority of the trails that are on the valley floor, Jan, are actually for open for people of all abilities. They're paved and have ramps where they cross streets or overpasses, which minimizes the contact with vehicles. So I think that's been something that the county area through the Coyote Creek Parkway has been very conscious about. And then the new trails that are going in through the near Story Road are also trails that are paved. And then the trails to the north around Montague Expressway going north towards McCarthy Road, those are also paved. And if you haven't been out there, the section along Coyote Creek near McCarthy Road is really interesting, because you're right next to the water, and at dusk there's an amazing number of birds that you can see. It's very easily accessible.
Are there any other parts of Coyote Creek that you particularly like or would recommend for people to visit?
I think Osier Ponds is a really interesting spot. It does take a bit of effort to get there, but because it's about 2.5 miles north of the Coyote Creek Visitor Center, which is in Morgan Hill, but it's worth it. You see these ponds, you see where the creek flows into the ponds. There's the creek pond habitat that changes right there. So there's a lot of birds during especially the winter time, that use it. We've seen bald eagles and golden eagles hanging out there. And then there's a lot of aquatic species as well that are visible in that area. And you can bike right up to the edge of it and around it and see it. So I think that's a really pretty area. I wouldn't go right now because it's pretty hot, but it's really nice to go to at different times of the year. I also think that the Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve is great because you have a nice lookout from the top of it. It's a 4-mile loop trail, and you have a nice lookout to the valley, including the creek. So I recommend that as another place to enjoy the watershed.
We do have another question from Gina. When is the next cleanup?
It's this Saturday. So I hope you can come out, Gina. Please come to our cleanup. We have a lot of fun doing them, and it's really rewarding when you start and you see what it looks like, and then you finish and you see what a great job you've done in removing all the trash there.
Absolutely. I'm happy to send out a link to everyone who registered, so that if they're interested, you can go ahead and join. So if we don't have any further questions, Deb, is there anything else that you want to share with everyone before we sign off?
I guess some of the people that were on here on your call on the Birdie Hour, they also do a lot of great work. Like Jan has served on the Open Space Authority, and I know Craig has participated in our virtual events, but he also has served on the Habitat agency. And I really encourage people to find ways to get active in whatever it is that they care about the most. So a lot of people are fans of birds. So there's lots of bird advocacy through SFBBO and Audubon that you can do as well. So just, it takes a little bit of everybody doing to get a lot done. So I really appreciate that. Yes, everyone has something to contribute. So just find that little spark that you can contribute to and make it happen.